if you want to support the show, you can go to mwpnews.com/support, where you can pick up my latest book, Succession Planning, and all my other books that have previously been released on Kindle for only $2.99 each. Thank you. Good morning, and welcome to the Backlog Files. I am Adam, and here we are to talk about a game that changed the way I view Pokemon. This is something that, this was an eye-opening experience the first time I played this game. And it was at a friend's house, and I didn't have an N64 growing up. I had a Sega Genesis, and then with a PlayStation. But I ended up playing this at a friend's house or at daycare or something, because took the bus to school, so you would end up going to this thing where it's if you didn't have a babysitter, they would send you to this kind of thing. They was oh, we'll keep track of your kid and then put them on the bus and then have them go there. And this is a game that I played a lot there and at was that in Diddy Kong Racing were two big games that we played there. And this is Pokémon Stadium. Pokémon Stadium, which was the first time that we brought the Pokemon gameplay mechanics as we knew them in the game to three-dimensional space. And let me just say, this was a life-changing experience. That is not an overstatement. That is exactly the right amount of gravitas to add to this. This was a life-changing experience. You could synchronize your handheld game to it. You could do you could play the game in a built-in emulator in it. You get this little thing that you would add onto the back of your N64 controller, and then you'd plug in you'd put your Pokemon game into it, and it would bring in. You can play the game on the big screen. You could just bring your Pokemon over and bring the data over and use those to battle in 3D, and it's this is just fucking awesome. When I say that, this was the be-all and end-all of my life at the time, this is the greatest thing ever. And then you get to the idea of we have the gym leader battles and the challenges there. You have the mini games and all the challenges there, and this is this is and the thing is too, the animations were so cool. It's you had these cool designs. You had Blastoise with these cannons on his back, and he would he'd use the cannons to shoot water at the enemy. And it was just one of those things this is awesome. There were some things that I thought were weird, the fact that all the Pokemon were nicknamed, and the rental battles gave you some movesets that weren't fantastic. And if you go in and play it on Switch Online now, you will see what I'm talking about, where it's I don't know, the move base in this, at this time was not particularly deep, so it's not there were a ton of options, but at the same time, you look at this and you're yeah, but I'm trying to come up with a party that's going to be good against Brock, and it's alright, so I'm going to grab some water-type Pokemon, but it's why does this water-type Pokemon not have a solid attacking water-type move? Why is Seedra's best water-type move Bubble or some shit like that? I don't remember if that's exactly what it was, but that was the thing where I'm you got to give me something stronger. You can't give me some... And look, playing it at the time, that didn't matter, especially when you were playing with your friends and you're oh, holy shit, this is groundbreaking what we have here. It's you're just happy to be playing it, but looking back now competitively, the rental Pokemon are not great, and it's not the kind of thing where it's if you're going to use them for the challenge, and granted, I think the point of it was not to use them for the gym leader challenge. The goal was not to use those. You wanted to use your own Pokemon for that. That way you had the movesets you wanted, you had the stats the way you wanted, and all of that. So this is the kind of thing where it was okay, this is us trying something. And I think a lot of it holds up very well. And I think that this is the beginning of Pikachu no longer being quite as fat. This is the beginning of slimming him down into the model that we kind of relate to now. That said, I would say that a lot of, and again, it's not entirely this game's fault. This is the first time we kind of had these kind of giant battles and all of that. But even in the same console generation, Stadium 2 looks better and has a deeper bench. the as the games have progressed, they've gotten better until they reach Battle Revolution. And then Battle Revolution is kind of like, I would say, to this day, the best looking Pokemon battles that we have had in a game is what's happening in Battle Revolution, which is on the Wii to tie into Diamond and Pearl. And I understand we don't need these games anymore because of the fact that we have, like, the home console is 3D graphics, and that's kind of where we are. But the fact that we never got one for Black and White was kind of a miss, in my opinion. And I think that there is a space for this kind of thing. Like, I could see a world in which Game Freak were to put out a Battle Frontier quote-unquote game where it is just the Battle Frontier. And if you put all your eggs into that basket, and it's like, look, you can bring your Pokemon in from home, you can do that, I think that could be something that could be big. And if you just put all of your stuff into, we're going to make the battles look as great as possible, we're going to spend a lot of time on the animations, we're going to make it as customizable as you want. We're going to, we can even put in something where you can walk it around and stuff. Like, there's plenty you can do with this idea, even in a world in which we're playing and the quality would likely, like, in an ideal world, what we have now in terms of these base games at Scarlet and Violet, the battles should look as good as they did in Battle Revolution, but they don't. And they don't even look as good as they did in Stadium. Like, the battle animations are not great. And if that was something where it's like, if they could get that up to that standard, that'd be great. But I think that, like, the kind of thing I think they need to work on, and I think that this is something that would help them in the long term, is if they made a game like this, if they made a Stadium 3, if they made a new Battle Revolution, if they just called it, like I said, Battle Frontier, Pokemon Battle Frontier, and it's just taking your Pokemon from home and putting them through there, and they just spent the time to make all of the animations look fantastic and make all the battles look good, and then you just had that and can export that into the main game, that would do a lot for making the game look a lot better and run a lot better. It's a shame they don't have something like that, and we're just running where it's like, well, the base game plays these battles in 3D, so we don't need to have this kind of thing anymore. Like, this would be great for the competitive scene. It'd be great for, like, if you wanted to bring back old mechanics. And like, this is something that I was thinking about while I was watching the end of the anime, where they're doing this big tournament of champions, and Ash is using Z moves, he's using Mega Evolution, he's using Gigantamax, and likely, if it was around, he would have been using Terra Stylization, or whatever the fuck you call it. But, like, in that case, you could do that in this kind of thing. Like, it's the kind of thing where it's like, Pokemon Showdown exists, but that's not an official software. This is it's a fan-made thing. If they put the money in to make these giant animations and have them look great, think about what the world could be. And I understand why you don't want to bring back, like, we'll talk about it when we get down the line into these games, but I understand why you wouldn't want to bring back some of these mechanics, and it could be game-breaking to an extent, or not game-breaking, but, like, meta-breaking. But I think that there's a lot to be had with this franchise that's kind of been dormant since, 2007, 2006? Well, I got it in 2007 because I got it for my when I got my confirmation and I got money, and I bought it then. But if that's the case and we're looking at it through that lens, I mean, there's ground to cover. There's new stuff to do. So let's just see what we can do in this world and really let it do. And then you can do all these cool battles. You can do all these cool, like, different things and spend the time to really get it right. And then you can use it to go forward in a stronger place. Because, let's be honest, I mean, the games haven't looked great recently. I mean, like, they've been getting progressively worse. I think that the best looking game we had, arguably, was Black and White. And then it's been downhill from there. I mean, you could say the best looking 3D game we had was, like, X and Y. But from there, it's been downhill. And if that's the case, then let's see what we can do with, taking the time to really understand this and get to know it. And then if you have a team devoted to just doing that, it could look great. But on the topic of Pokémon Stadium, I think that this is a very strong title that did a lot to help push along how great of a franchise this could be. at the same time, it's like looking at that poster from the Phantom Menace where it's that picture of Anakin with the shadow casting of Darth Vader. Like, it kind of is like that, where it's like this could have been something great, but they fucked it up along the way, and we'll get to that as we go. But definitely check this game out. It's on what's it called? It's on Switch Online. As for where we would rank it in our list, let's go to our ranking real quick. The ranking. As it stands right now, we have number 1, Pokemon Yellow. At number 2, Pokemon Snap. At number 3, Pokemon Red and Blue. At number 4, a trading card game. And number 5, we have Hey You Pikachu. I'm going to put this one... I would say I will put this just below Snap, and let me explain why. After all I just said to how great it is, I think that Snap is replayable. Like, and it's short. It's the kind of thing where it's like if I'm feeling, if I'm like I got a few hours to kill and I don't know what to play, I can boot up Snap off of the Switch Online expansion and just play through that for a little bit. And there's a challenge to it and the points and all of that. Stadium is going to end up frustrating me, especially playing it in the modern day. If you play it the way it's intended on an N64, you'll probably have more fun, especially if you play it the way it was intended on an N64 with your save file from Pokemon Red, Blue, or Yellow. It's the kind of thing where you will have a lot more fun with this game because you are playing the game it was designed to be played. You aren't having that playing it now because you can only use the rental Pokemon. And the rental Pokemon that you have are not great. And the ones that the opponent has are better. So it'll get frustrating after a certain point. So I put it below Snap for that reason. But we'll see. Maybe we'll get something cool in the near future. Maybe Pokemon Day at the end of the month we get, the arrival of some of these, mainline games on Switch Online. And they integrate. I'm not going to hold my breath. I don't think that's going to happen, but it'd be cool if it did. But regardless, here we are. So we'll wrap up there for today with our new ranking with Pokemon Stadium at number 3. Next week, our next episode will be Pokemon Pinball, and then the week after that we have Pokemon Puzzle League / Pokemon Puzzle Challenge, wrapping up Generation 1. So, until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.